I haven't filmed a video where I'm just sat here talking to myself in about 8 years. Now, what we're doing today is that we are ranking horror movie franchises. I haven't seen all the ones on this template, but there's a lot that I have seen, and I have moved the ones that I have seen up to the top, and then we get to talk about them. So I guess here goes nothing. So the first one we've got on this tier ranking is Alien vs Predator. Now, regarding Alien vs Predator, and actually, you've got two such good franchises. You've got the Alien franchise and you've got the Predator franchise. Now, I love both of them franchises. I don't care much for the Alien vs Predator movies. I think it was that time where horror did start to go downhill a bit. So I think for this one, we are going to put it in... You know what, we'll put it in a could easily rewatch. Just for the simple fact that they are fun movies. Like I say, they're nowhere near as good as some of the ones on here. Next we have The Exorcist, straight up classic movie. Talking about it in the sense of franchises, I have not seen the rest of the Exorcist movies, but I have heard that they're not that good. But I would be down to give them a watch, but as far as in terms, I know it is franchises, but the first one is so good that it has to go into classic. Next we have The Thing. Now, that's going into my favourites. Now, I absolutely adore the John Carpenter's Thing. I also love the 2010, I believe it was, that movie. Absolutely phenomenal movies. I have not, however, seen the original. Now, I would love to give it a watch. I just haven't got round to that yet. But the John Carpenter's and that 2010 one is absolutely incredible, and they hold a very special place in my heart. Now we have Silent Night, Deadly Night.
Terrifying suspense shocker you've been waiting for.
Now, oh my god. These movies, I could easily rewatch them. I watched the first one around Christmas time of last year, and I just absolutely loved it. Like, it was so cheesy. I mean, the story wasn't strong, but it was fun. It was fun to watch, and yeah, I could easily rewatch this franchise. Next we have Resident Evil. Now, this was actually, if you would consider it actually a horror movie, this was the first horror movie I ever watched. Now, don't get me wrong, the games are absolutely incredible. The movies, some of the movies are very good. The first three, I would say, are good. Now, the first three are good. When you're comparing it to the games, now, I am very into Resident Evil lore. These films are nowhere near as good as the games, but they were, like I say, they're one of the first horror movies I ever seen. So I'm gonna put in could easily rewatch. It has that hold on me somehow, and I guess it has to go there, to be honest. I don't think it's overhyped at all. It actually gets a lot of hate in comparison to the games. So I think it does belong there. Next we have Candyman.
Have you ever heard of Candyman? If you look in the mirror, you say his name 5 times.
That has to go into classic. I love the Candyman movies. Granted, the second and the third are nowhere near as good as the first one. But Tony Todd is absolutely incredible in the first one. And that remake that came out, I believe, was it 2020 that came out? Oh, I loved it. So it is just a classic. Next we have The Human Centipede. Now, as a teenager, I remember being like 12 or 13 and watching the first and second ones. I guess as an art piece, it's hard to say that they are completely overhyped. Like, I love how the third one has the joke about the other two movies in it. You've got Tom Six that makes an appearance in it to talk about how great these two movies were, but it is totally overhyped. They aren't good movies, but do I think they're boring? Absolutely not. I have watched at least the first one quite a number amount of times. I've only seen the second one once because it was too much for my interest, and like I say, the third one is just it's horror comedy, to me. Now, granted, I haven't seen these movies since I was about maybe 17, but yeah, I think they are completely overhyped for what they are. Next, we have Friday the 13th.
Hello? Who's that? Oh, hi. What are you doing out in this mess?
I haven't seen every single Friday the 13th movie, but if I'm being honest, it's got to go in classics. The first one is incredible. We I believe I've seen the first four in the Friday the 13th. I've also seen the remake Jason X and Freddy vs. Jason, if you count that as part of the franchise. I love the movies that I have seen, and I do intend to watch the rest of them. Next, we've got Evil Dead. Now, that has to go into my favourites. I have a strong love for the Evil Dead movies, especially the second and third ones. I love the 2013 one, and I also loved Evil Dead Rise. It's just got everything that I do enjoy in it. It's got that gore, it's got that comedy, and it's a movie that I recommend to everybody to watch if you haven't already seen it. Next, we've got Scary Movie.
You're behind the couch. I can see your feet.
What?
That goes straight into Borefest. The first one with the comedy regarding Scream and I Know What You Did Last Summer is actually quite good. The rest of them, I don't like that kind of comedy in movies. It is completely boring for me. But other than that first one, I think they're just ridiculous and they're not for me. Next, we have The Lost Boys. Now, I believe this is where people are going to switch off because I think The Lost Boys are totally overhyped. Granted, I haven't seen The Lost Boys, like at least the first one, since I was a teenager, at a sleepover. I never got into The Lost Boys. I never liked them. I never liked that movie. But I understand that people do absolutely love these movies. So to me, it is overhyped. Next, we have Alien. That goes into my favourites straight away. I can't tell you enough how much I think the first Alien movie is one of the most perfect movies. Then we've also got Aliens and Alien 3. They are absolutely it's a phenomenal trilogy, but then you've also got the ones that came out after that. They are such a good watch, and I love the Alien. I absolutely love the Xenomorph. They are my favourites. They are up there as one of my favourites. Up next, we've got The Omen. That goes straight into could easily rewatch. In terms of my opinion, I think The Omen does get forgotten about in terms of a movie franchise. Now, we have had the newest one come out a couple of months ago. I haven't gotten around to seeing it yet, but I feel like it is one of them ones I do get forgetting about. As much as I can go back and easily rewatch them, it's not a classic that comes to mind, so that's why it's gone in that tier. Up next, we've got Cloverfield. I do not like found footage movies, so for me I would struggle to rewatch them, to be honest. But I will put it in overhyped. I don't believe it truly belongs there because I feel like out of found footage movies, it is one of the better ones. I do actually own this movie as well. I do own this movie as well as The Lost Boys. I do own them, but I just don't like found footage movies. I've really tried with them. Next we've got I Know What You Did Last Summer. First one is so good.
For the last year, 4 friends have kept a secret.
Are you on drugs?
Now I just love that 90s horror movie era. You know, I absolutely adore the first one. The other ones I severely dislike. So if we're in terms of franchise, I would have to put it in Borefest, as much as it pains me because of how much I love the first one. The other ones are just awful. Up next we've got Hostel. I'm going to put that in overhyped. I think Eli Roth is such a good movie director, but I really struggled to watch Hostel. I really struggled to get through them. I love gore, but there is certain parts of sort of gore fests that I can't bring myself to watch. So it is going there. I believe I do own this movie as well. I haven't seen it maybe since I was like 16, and so it's going in overhyped for me. Up next we've got Blade.
The worst things out tonight than vampires.
Like what?
Like me.
Now that is going into classics. I love Blade. I think the first one and the second one are so strong as movies. Like Guillermo del Toro did such a fantastic job with directing the second one. The first one has always been one of my favourites. The only reason it's not going into my favourites is because I haven't actually seen Blade since I was a teenager. Like, again, I have been wanting to rewatch them, so I imagine my opinion would change with it. But for now, it is going into classics. They are so strong. Up next, we've got Amityville Horror. I'm going to put that in overhyped. You know, I think the remake with Ryan Reynolds is so good. I struggled watching the first one, the original one. Up next, we've got Cabin Fever, another Eli Roth movie. I could put that in could easily rewatch again. Now, there's a lot of movies that I do like that are made by Eli Roth, and I absolutely adore Cabin Fever. I really enjoyed it, and this is one of the movies by Eli Roth that I absolutely love. I thoroughly enjoy it. I haven't, however, seen the movies after the first one, but I have seen the remake of the first one that came out, I believe, was about 2016. Basically the same movie. But I do like Cabin Fever a lot. Up next we've got A Nightmare on Elm Street.
I'm your boyfriend now, Nancy.
Now, they've got to go in classics. I have watched all of the Nightmare on Elm Streets, but I haven't seen them for a very long time. This is another movie that I was allowed to watch when I was younger, and I adore the first one and the third one. Are they my favourites? No, I haven't seen them the whole time I've been an adult, which so it's a long time, and I feel like I do need to get into watching them. Up next we've got Fright Night. I haven't seen the original Fright Night in such a long time, but my partner did buy me the remake with David Tennant. I think it was a couple of years ago now for my birthday, and it was so good. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm gonna put them in could easily rewatch. Up next we've got Halloween, and it has to go into my favourites. I believe the first Halloween movie is the perfect horror movie. It is everything I love in a movie. I love it so dearly, but oh my god, there is some movies in this franchise that I could never bring myself to watch again. Now, it is going in top because of how strong the first movie is. Now, there is some good ones as well throughout the franchise, but there's also some stinkers, so yeah. If you want like a full video on Halloween and my opinion on Halloween, let me know, because I could talk about it for ages. Up next we've got Tremors. The first Tremors with Kevin Bacon is a fun movie, and I could easily rewatch. I really enjoy the second one as well. Now there's sort of like blurred lines between the third and the fourth, so I am putting it in could easily rewatch, and I do need to rewatch the rest of them. Hellraiser is one of my favourites.
We'll tear your soul apart.
Again, love these movies. Again, like Halloween, there is some proper stinkers in this franchise. When I think of the franchise with Hellraiser, I think of the first three movies, and I love the first three movies. The ones after that, it gets a little bit hazy. But I actually met Doug Bradley, the guy who plays Pinhead, last year at HorrorCon in Sheffield, and he was so lovely, and it was so nice to see the panel of the Cenobites just talking about it. And I mean, he counted the Hellraiser franchise as the first three movies, so I'm going to as well. So it goes up to my favourites by far. It is up there as one of my favourite movies ever. Another one in my favourite is Child's Play. I absolutely adore Child's Play 1, 2 and 3. I think they're such strong movies. However, does this count towards the Chucky franchise itself? I'm going to say yes, even though they're not Child's Play. Bride of Chucky is so good. I really enjoy the comedy in Bride of Chucky. Seed of Chucky is horrendous. And Cult and Curse of Chucky, they're okay. It still has to go into my favourites. Like, I think that it's so good with the first three Child's Plays. They did such a good job with the Child's Play movies, and yeah, it's one of my favourites. Up next, we've got Insidious. Insidious 1 and 2 are so good. Insidious 2 is actually my favourite Insidious movie. I think now, the first one came out in, I think it was 2010. I think that came out. I guess it's classed as a classic now. Insidious 3 is where it started to sort of drop off, and Insidious 4 is terrible. Now, who in their right mind thinks that the demon, the one that's causing the bother in 4, is a demon with keys for fingers? I couldn't get on board with it. I just couldn't. But Insidious 1 and 2, incredible movies, and really started to change the way horror was going. In my eyes, it started to change the way horror was going, like around that time, because I feel like a lot of that time it was full of remakes. There is some great standout movies during that time. But yes, I feel like the late 2000s and the 2010s were full of remakes. They're not necessarily good remakes either. And Insidious did stand out as one of the best horror movies of that time, to me anyway. Up next, we've got Jaws.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Now, Jaws for me it's got to go in classics. You know, just like with some of these, the first one really stands out and really brings that franchise up for me. The first movie is so good. The rest of them, I'm never watching again. Another one of my all-time favourites is Jeepers Creepers. I absolutely adore the first movie. Now, Justin Long is one of my favourite actors of all time. Jonathan Brecht does a really good job as the Creeper in the first three movies. I haven't seen the newest one that came out. I think it's the fourth one that came out recently. I haven't seen that one. So I'm going to go off from what I have seen, which is the first, second and third. Third one I don't really remember. However, the first one and the second one, I love them movies, so they are going into my favourites. I've loved Jeepers Creepers, the first one, since I was a child. Up next, we've got Final Destination. Now, I have just recently rewatched these movies with my partner because he hadn't seen them before. They are gonna go in classics. Now, there is a stinker in this one. The Final Destination 4, I think that was like the 3D one, is horrendously bad. Like, I don't remember it being as bad as it was until I rewatched it literally about a month ago. But the first three are so strong, and it is well loved within the genre. The kills are so unique and very rememberable. It's like they are classics. They to me. Up next, we've got The Ring.
You start to play it, and it's like somebody's nightmare. And as soon as it's over, your phone rings. And what they say is, you will die in 7 days.
And I love The Ring. I love these movies. I believe this goes into classic. Now, granted, I haven't seen all of the Ring movies. The ones that I have seen, I do thoroughly enjoy. Up next, we've got Carrie. Now, with Carrie, I haven't seen every single Carrie remake there is out there. It is going in classics. There's a lot of Stephen King adaptations that I do love. Carrie is probably one of my least favourites, but I do enjoy this one a lot. Up next, we've got 28 Days Later. I have a very love-hate relationship for zombie movies. Now, they are the movies that absolutely terrify me, and that's probably because I was so scared of zombies as a child, thanks to Resident Evil. I have a very personal gripe about the first one, but they are so good, and I'm so excited for the 28 Years Later. So I'm going to put that in classics. Up next, we've got Prom Night.
Nick? Do you still like to play games?
Prom Night I could put in, that could easily rewatch. I don't, in my eyes, I don't believe it's good enough to be part of like the classics, but it's a fun move. They're fun movies to watch, so I am going to put that there. I feel like I'm being really like generous with my rankings. Going back to found footage, Paranormal Activity is going in Borefest to me. I appreciate what it did for the found footage sort of subgenre of horror. I do own the first four on DVD, but they're never going to be movies that I'm going to pick to watch. Yeah, I just can't. I can't get behind the love for these movies. Poltergeist going straight into classics.
Give Ken a kiss.
You know, it's especially the first one. You know, it's so good. You know, the first one was directed by Tobe Hooper, who did the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. The first Texas Chainsaw Massacre, sorry. He did such a good job with this movie. I rewatched it a couple of years ago with my partner, and it was so much better than I remember. Now, granted, I do need to see the rest of the Poltergeist movies again, because I can't really remember watching them. I know I did, but yeah, the first one is so good. The first one is so phenomenal that it goes straight into classics for me. Up next, we've got The Shining. Shining goes straight into my favourites. I haven't read the book of The Shining as much as I want to. I have loved this movie for years, literal years, and I understand that Stephen King does not like this movie. I was obsessed with it as a teenager. Up next, we've got The Cube. Now, I could put that in could easily rewatch. The first one is I feel like there is a theme with me just talking about the first one. The first one is so interesting and I thoroughly enjoy it. I don't believe I have seen the rest of them. Me and my partner, we really love this movie, and I do want to get around to watching the rest of them. I haven't heard a lot about them, but I'm definitely going to be looking into watching them very, very soon. Up next, we've got The Purge. I have just recently rewatched the Purge movies, and I'm going to put them in could easily rewatch. I think they have such strong storylines in each movie, but I feel like there's always too much in these movies. If The Purge was like an anthology series with talking about the different parts and different aspects of each movie, that would be incredible to me. But regardless, I think if the first one's not the best one, Ethan Hawke does such a good job in this first movie, and Lena Headey. Lena Headey and Ethan Hawke do such a good job in the first movie. However, my personal favourite out of the series is Election Year. I was so surprised with how much I enjoyed that movie. Up next, we've got a movie that I have loved for so many years, is Psycho. And the 4 Psycho movies that I have seen, I haven't seen the remake, so I believe the original 4 that were directed by Anthony Perkins. I believe that from Psycho 2 onwards, they were directed by Anthony Perkins, who plays Norman Bates in the original and throughout the series. They are so good. You know, I am hunting down for the rest of the Psycho movies. I have the first one on DVD, but I am actively searching for the rest of them because I really enjoy these movies. They have to go into classic for me. Up next, we've got Pet Sematary. Now, I have only seen the original 2 Pet Sematary movies. I haven't seen the ones that came out within the last 10 years or so. I can't remember the year it came out, and there's the Bloodlines one as well. I'm going to put this in could easily rewatch. Now, I love the first Pet Sematary movie, but again, I haven't seen enough of it for me to have a proper opinion on it as a franchise. Up next, we've got Saw. Saw is one of my favourite movies. I love the lore regarding Saw. They're so, because it's not just about the traps, you know, there's everything else going on. I love these movies. Granted, some of the movies in there, they do get a little bit hazy, but like for me to remember which trap was in which film. But I absolutely adore the newer ones that have come out as well. And like I said, Jigsaw, Spiral, and X was so good. It is part of like I say, one of some of my favourite movies ever. Another movie that is in my favourite, and I've got my Ghostface t-shirt on, is Scream. Again with Halloween, like Halloween 1, like I was saying, with it being like the perfect horror movie, Scream 1 to me is another perfect horror movie. I have loved that since I was a child, and I think out of every Scream movie that has come out, there's not a single one that I dislike. Now, I haven't seen the TV show as much as I want to. I couldn't get past how Ghostface looks in, I believe, the first season. I will eventually get round to watching it, but the 6 Scream movies that there is, I love with all my heart. Up next, we've got The Strangers.
I've contained my rage for as long as possible, but I shall unleash my fury upon you like the crashing of 1,000 waves! Begone, vile man! Begone from me!
Now, there is a new one that's just come out. It's got a lot of bad reviews. I am going to put it in as overhyped. I do enjoy the first one. I think Scott Speedman and... oh, what's her name? Liv Tyler. Yes, that Liv Tyler. They are so good in this movie. I haven't seen the rest of them, but the hype that the newest Strangers movie got, I believe it is a totally overhyped franchise, and I believe that the newest one didn't do that good review-wise. I do want to go and see it regardless. Another movie like the Resident Evil franchise, we have the Silent Hill franchise. I love the Silent Hill movies a lot more than the Resident Evil ones. Granted, I believe there's only 2 Silent Hill movies. Off the top of my head, I think there's only 2. I think it's because I haven't played the Silent Hill games. I think I've played a bit of a few of them, but I haven't fully played any of the Silent Hill movies. I haven't played through a Silent Hill game. I really struggled to play horror games, despite my love for horror. So it's a hard one. I think in my head I prefer Silent Hill over Resident Evil, but it is still going to go into could easily rewatch. I have been wanting to rewatch these movies, but yeah, my opinion might change, but I think it's in the same category as Resident Evil, but I prefer it compared to Resident Evil, as much as I love that movie as well. Now we have A Quiet Place. I am so excited for A Quiet Place Day 1. This is going to my favourites by far. They are done so well, and I have no words to talk about how much I love this movie. Both of them are such strong movies, and again, I am going to keep a lot of my words for the new one that's coming out, and I'll probably do a video talking about Quiet Place anyway. So yeah, it is a part of my favourites. Up next we've got Sinister. I really hated Sinister as a teenager, and I rewatched it a couple of years ago and I was like, why did I hate this movie? It's got Ethan Hawke in it, for one, and Ethan Hawke is again one of my favourite actors. I don't understand why I didn't like it. You know, it was so good. I'm gonna have to put it in classics, because it's, in terms of the way I've done this ranking, I believe Sinister is not as good as Insidious, but I was pleasantly surprised. I was pleasantly surprised rewatching this movie. The second one as well, I remember enjoying the second one when that came out, and not liking it as much compared to the first one when I rewatched it a couple of years ago. Up next we've got Silence of the Lambs. I'm going to put that in classics. Again, first movie is incredible. I can't really remember Red Dragon or Hannibal very well, but I do love Silence of the Lambs, so I am putting that in classics. Up next we've got Sleepaway Camp.
Dear Mom and Dad, I've been at a sleepaway camp for almost 3 weeks, and I'm getting very scared.
Again, one of the rare ones with me, it seems. So I love Sleepaway Camp Part 2. I think it's that campy slasher that really pulls on my heartstrings. I love the first one as well, but the second one really shines for me, and I'm going to put that in classics again. Love these movies. I haven't seen Sleepaway Camp 3, although I do own it. So I do need to watch that very soon, and I can give you a full honest review on that. Now we have the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Now I knew this was coming, and I am gonna have everybody against me for saying this. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I appreciate what it did for the horror genre. I really dislike the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 1. However, as a franchise, I really enjoyed the second one, and I really love the remake. There is a lot of movies in there that I do not like, and I particularly do not like the first one. but I really appreciate what it did. Now, so I am going to put it... I believe the first one is totally overhyped, but for what it did, and you know, some of the movies in this franchise, it does go in. I'm gonna have to put it in classics. I feel like I'd get too much hate if I put it in overhyped. But yes, I do not like the first Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I really enjoy aspects of that movie. I enjoy the family and I enjoy the characters. I enjoy the story of it. What I don't like is 45 minutes of screaming and running around. It was a lot for me to take, you know, watching that movie. So it's I can't do it. I can't do it to myself. Oh, another found footage movie that's completely overhyped for me. And again, like with Paranormal Activity, I appreciate what it did for the found footage genre. I really dislike the Blair Witch Project, and I'll say no more on it. Up next, we've got Predator. As I said at the start of the video, I really love the Predator movies. Now, there is some, like Predator 2, what on earth were they thinking? But it's a classic, you know, I don't love it as much as Alien. It is a classic though, you know, I believe Predator 1 and 3 I really, really enjoy. And yeah, I think it goes into classics, you know, everybody knows Predator. And up next we've got The Woman in Black. So I'm going to put that in overhyped. I remember it coming out and everyone being like, oh, Daniel Radcliffe's in a horror movie. And whilst the first one did have some really interesting parts to it, it's really forgotten about, to be honest. It's not something that I would go back and could easily rewatch. It's very forgettable, in my opinion. We're getting down to the last few that I am going to include on this list. So now we've got Happy Death Day.
Stop global warming? Hey.
I could easily rewatch Happy Death Day. And I really love Happy Death Day to You as well, the second one. And I think it's really fun, and yeah, I would recommend this movie to anybody. Anybody who's starting to get into horror or hasn't seen it, I would recommend this movie. It's really fun. Up next we've got Don't Breathe. Could easily rewatch as well. I was really surprised through the first one, and I love the turn of the second one and how it's based around the guy that we now grew to dislike in the first one. Yeah, I think they're great movies, and I haven't got much else to say about them. Now we've got The Descent. Now that has, to me, that's straight up classic. You know, it came out, I believe, was it 2006 that came out? Or 2008? So I was close, not 2006, 2005 that movie came out, and that was around the time that there was a lot of downhill horror movies coming out. This pleasantly surprised me, and I hadn't seen this until maybe a year or two ago. I watched it and I really enjoyed these movies. First and second one are really good. I like the first one and the second one of The Descent. Yeah, I really enjoyed these ones. Up next we've got Underworld. Now, is it outdated? Yes. Is it one of my favourite vampire movies ever? Yes. So that's going in my favourites. I really don't like the newer ones. I think it's like Blood Wars, I think it's called. Blood Wars, Bloodlines. Did not like that movie. However, the first three, especially the third one, are so good. I'm going to say everything's so good. They are. I love the story. I love the Vikings versus vampires. Amazing movies. Up next we've got It. It for me, I have loved since I was a child. You know, when you've got Tim Curry's Pennywise. He is so good at that movie. However, like with the second part of the TV miniseries, and then also the part 2 with It Chapter 2, they are not as strong as the beginning of both their movies. I say movies, you know what I mean. The first part of the TV miniseries. Yeah, the beginning part of each one is so much stronger compared to the ending or the part 2s of them. Still holds a very special place in my heart. I have loved both versions. I love the Skarsgård version and I love the Curry's version so much. Another found footage horror movie going into Borefest. I really enjoy the anthology idea behind this movie. Again, found footage movies bore the hell out of me, and I'm really sorry, and I do keep trying watching them, and there's so many that I've seen. They're just not for me. Possibly one of the greatest films that came out around the 2010s is The Conjuring, and that is going in my favourites. I adore the first and the second one. Granted, with the Conjuring franchise, you know, that also includes the Annabelle movies, includes the Nun movies, you know, and although people people don't like admitting it, but The Curse of La Llorona is also part of this franchise. In my opinion, the first 2 Conjuring movies are the best of the franchise. Annabelle 2 is really good as well. And I do enjoy The Curse of La Llorona as even though the hate that it gets. Like with a lot of these movies, my love for the first 2 movies outshines the bad movies that are in this franchise, so it has to go in the top for me. Up next we've got Zombieland.
Whoa. Well, these fellas really let themselves go.
I think Zombieland is totally overhyped. I enjoy the comedy in it. I enjoy the actors that are in this movie. Is it something I could easily rewatch? No. Is it something that I do forget about quite often? Yes. I find these movies, like I say, really interesting. I love the take of a zombie movie, a zombie comedy in these. Totally overhyped though for me. Up next we've got Gremlins. Gremlins is a classic. You can't tell me otherwise. The Gremlins 1 and 2 are so good. My Christmas movies. And the last movie that I am going to talk about is My Bloody Valentine. That's not the last movie I'm going to talk about. I'm a liar. So, My Bloody Valentine.
Roses are red, violets are blue. One is dead, and so are you.
Is next. I'm going to put this in classic. I really enjoy the original My Bloody Valentine. I believe it's the original, the 1980 version. And I enjoy My Bloody Valentine, I think it's 3D or something. I enjoy both these movies. I don't think, as far as I'm aware, the second one isn't a remake of My Bloody Valentine. It's a sequel to what happened. As far as I can remember, I haven't seen the 2009, I think it was, that came out. I haven't seen that movie in quite a while, but I have recently seen My Bloody Valentine, and it's got that 80s shine to it. It's a one I thoroughly enjoy, so it has to go in classic for me. It's got, you know, that 80s vibe. Oh, last movie I am going to talk about though. Again, would you class it as found footage? It's a laptop screen. It does fall in there for me. However, I really enjoy. Granted, I've only seen these movies once. I really enjoyed The Dark Web that came out. So I am going to put it in overhyped. I think they are. I didn't like the first one, but I did, like I say, I was pleasantly surprised with The Dark Web. I don't believe there is any other movies part of this franchise. correct me if I'm wrong, but it wasn't. It's a forgettable They're forgettable movies for me. But that is the end of my tier list ranking. So you can see the biased this. But it's been fun talking about my horror movies and you know, ones that I love and don't necessarily like. But these are the ones that there is a lot in here, and you're gonna be wondering why I haven't included a lot like these movies, and that's because I don't remember them enough, or I haven't seen them to have an opinion on it. Granted, there is some that like in these franchises that I haven't either seen or don't remember their sequel movies, but I know them enough to talk about them. Whereas these ones I can't really remember or I haven't seen. Things like Frankenstein, I absolutely adore Frankenstein, and I adore the 1931 version, the 1931 movie of Frankenstein. However, there are so many Frankenstein movies from Universal Monsters, I couldn't talk about it in this. I feel like the ones I haven't seen, I just couldn't. Same with Dracula, same with Creature of the Black Lagoon. You know, I couldn't talk about them. That's why I haven't included them. Same with like House of a Thousand Corpses. I have only seen House of a Thousand Corpses and I didn't like it, so I felt like I couldn't include that either. So that was my video regarding talking about my passion. That was my first video. I apologise if it's a little bit sort of skew with at times, or I sort of forget about what I'm saying or things like that. It is hard getting back into talking to yourself, you know. But if there's anything that you want to hear me talk about more particularly, leave a comment or send me a message. I will include my links to Twitter and Instagram. I do have horror related pages on both them websites. So if there's anything you want to hear me talk about specifically, please let me know. Reach out. It's been fun going through this with you today. And yeah, I will see you for the next one. Bye.